Human with Greg, Witz, and Weiss. Greg, you are just north of the border today.
North of the border, back up in Canada in the summer, which is still pretty cold actually after, being down south, you realize. But no, it's good to be back. I'm in the office. It's always nice to be in the office, right? So, yeah, and you are also not in Florida. Where are you?
Steamboat, Colorado.
Steamboat.
Gorgeous.
Correct. Well, you look like you're in Steamboat. I was commenting on your background before saying how cool it is. Look how cool you look being in Steamboat. You look like you've become like a surfer and a snowboarder and a cyclist again.
Yeah, exactly. I got a new hat. Should say on their Steamboat. They've got gorgeous aspen trees. Oh my gosh. And here's a fun fact for everyone. If you rub your hand up and down the aspen trunk, which is white, you'll end up with white residue. And if you put that white residue on your face or your arms, it's natural sunblock.
Huh, look at that. You see, you don't need sunscreen anymore.
Nope, that's good sunscreen. And my little guy, Joshua, he's so funny. I don't know how he remembers this stuff. He's got better memory than me. So we're playing around with these kids in the back of this condo complex. He's like, come over here. He's like, watch this. He starts rubbing the tree and putting it on their faces. He's like, no, we won't get sunburn.
Well, good for him, He knows. He lives in the sun. He's got to put on sunscreen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a river that runs right through this town that you go on tubes and you bring a six-pack, and it's about a 2 or 3 hour
river, like just roll down it?
Yeah, you just hang out in the tubes, and there's a couple good rapids, and you just hang out for it depends on how far you go up the river, like 2 or 3 hours. So that's a lot of fun. We did that twice already. But talk about globbing on the sunscreen, because we're at altitude. Steamboat's at, I think, 7,600 feet. And Denver is Mile High Stadium. So that's 1 mile above sea level. And you're living in Costa Rica at sea level.
Correct. On the equator, the sun is very strong there. Very strong. But when you're on the water and you've got the sun coming on you, it doesn't matter where you are. That sun is going to amplify, right? So,
yes. Speaking of amplifying, you and I have been talking this week. We had July 4th, so we didn't come on last Monday, but we were talking about how do you amplify customer service?
We were.
Right? This is a super important topic.
Yeah.
Humans,
and I think at the core of it, I mean, talking about what we're here to talk about, customer service, at the core of it is human beings and people, right? So, yeah, let's move into customer service. So
let me ask you. I'll ask you a question, right?
Okay.
You've got a great organization, and you end up with enterprise customers. I know at one time you said early on in our relationship that you landed maybe with a client or a new client, but it was 600 people. Actually, it was a bank's customer service department.
Correct.
And yeah, I was very impressed by that, because that's a lot of people to train.
Right.
So what is like the first things that you try to, first you got to see if there's a challenge, right? Like, how do you kind of dissect what's going on?
Right. So yeah. So so there's a similar challenge in customer service, but let's break customer service down into two camps, right? So we got the enterprise contact center, 1-800 account management, technical support, help desk customer service, right? Call it the phone and chat. We were just on it before. And then you've got retail customer service, when you walk in the store. So let's start with the first camp, which is that corporate customer service. So one of the challenges that you see in customer service is people don't know how to deal with people nicely. And when you're a customer or a client and you've got a problem and a challenge, right? There's a good chance by the time you call up Mike's on the other end of the phone, and you pick up, you're like, hello, Mike here, how can I help you? I usually there's a barrage of emotional frustration that comes at you, right? So there's a few stats that we know about customer service, specifically in these contact centers and sort of more of a corporate environment, which number one, the attrition rate of customer service, these personnel, these individuals is huge. And the reason for that is as a person, you could only take so much beating all day, right? Second to that, why is there such a beating? Why is there a problem? One of the things that we could appreciate about business is the business side of customer service or contact centers don't account for the relationship and the human side of things. Because the way a contact center is measured is something called call handling time, which is how fast you get off the phone. Because it's a numbers game, right? If we handle so many phone calls a day, so many per minute, so many in an hour, that means we're getting through so many clients' calls each day, right? So the system itself doesn't allow for the time and the connection. So therefore, the result of this is you have people that are unable to navigate the world and actually demonstrate things like empathy and support and be helpful. Because at the core of this, right, the biggest challenge in customer service is people's motivation to be helpful, right? Think about that. And all of the great customer service experience you've ever had, whether it be retail or whether it be corporate, at the end of that was a person motivated to help you, right? You felt that. You had a trust, there was a connection, there was this sort of unspoken thing, which is, okay, this person's really helping me. And what did that help you do? It helped you be patient. It helped you communicate a little nicer, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the challenge that we see with customer service, which is, I think the system that we put people in doesn't allow them to succeed when it comes down to the art of actually demonstrating customers being helpful and supportive to another human being, because that stuff takes time, right? And you can't box in that time. Oh, I lost your audio. What happened here?
There we go. Yeah. So if I'm hearing you correctly, Greg, there's a KPI that organizations are heavily weighting, which is time to solve a problem.
Correct.
And that very benchmark in itself can work against what we're actually trying to achieve from, if you think about a brand and a customer service relationship. Not only how does the customer feel, but what I'm learning now also what you're saying is that the people that are in the customer service seats, if you put that pressure on them and you're dehumanizing them because the KPIs are so strong, then
Correct.
They don't succeed long term because they can't. It's not a good job.
Correct. So, but like, let's think about step one, and people miss this in customer service. I mean, this is like the number one thing. I don't think we need anything more if we just do step one really well, which is as someone calls, connect with them, right? How do you connect with someone, right? Well, if someone's calling up, I'm really pissed off, right? Before you could even begin to resolve my issue and provide some sort of solution or walk me through something, right? You need to de-escalate me. You need to de-escalate the emotion. You need to acknowledge that step, right? Because most of us are coming in hot. And it is not until I'm calmed down and I'm more rational that you can manage the situation. I could hear what your solution is, right? Now, one of the things that we need in all of these situations, the number one thing that we can do in customer service is make the other person feel significant. That's step one. If you could do that, you're significant, I got you, I hear you, right? Easy. But that's where everyone misses, right? So customer service misses the most important step, which is treating the person with significance, and thereafter are forcing people back through that process again. And this is why most of us have horror stories, or most of us don't have a lot of good examples of great customer service.
Oh. So it's so interesting because that first step, how do you train to that? I know, in Kabbalah, they actually say there's like if for deep emotional wounds, there's a 24-hour period from all the way from the ancient writings going back 3,000 years that's suggesting you hold off, for something that's highly emotional for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you train, people that are coming into customer service jobs or that are in that position to do what you just said, to de-escalate, to let them know that the person's heard?
Mm-hmm. Look, there's a lot of different ways. Putting them through a call script is not one of them, right? But I think what we would teach is number one, acknowledge the person, acknowledge the issue. You know, we as human beings need to be heard, right? We need to be heard in our relationships. We need to be heard in our businesses. Our clients need to hear us. The one difference when it comes down to customer service interaction is that, you know, we don't give enough space to hear people. You know, I got a great example of someone that did it really well. So I used to fly back and forth to Washington a lot. I used to do a lot of work and training with the White House and a number of other government agencies. And I'll take the Air Canada flight. And then when I was in Washington for 5 years, like every week I was in Washington, like fly in Monday, fly out Wednesday, fly in Wednesday, fly back Wednesday. Like it was like, it's a quick flight in and out. And there was a guy by the name of Brent. And Brent worked at Air Canada, and you could just imagine the type of customers, and you've seen it in airports, where people are pissed off. My bags, my flight, my cancellation, my this, my that. So when people come into these interactions, they're coming in 100, right? So no 24-hour rule, no space. Where are my bags? Where's my flight, right?
Now, yeah, there's a lot riding on it a lot of times. Yeah,
correct. And here's the one thing that I actually used to hang out with friends a lot, but here's the one thing that he understood. People are panicked. They're stressed. They're hyper stressed. They're hyper panicked, right? If you're an experienced traveler, you're annoyed. If you're a new traveler, you're completely afraid of like, what is going to happen? Where am I going to go, right? So the world of uncertainty. So then maybe that's the answer when it comes down to how do you treat people with significance, is we make their problems important. We recognize the fact that this human being is panicked, that they're stressed, and how I respond and how I communicate and what I say before I get into the solution and the script really becomes the most important. Look, we do this as spouses, we do this very well, and we do this very badly, right? Days where we're speaking to our significant other, or they're talking to us and they're coming at a problem. They might even be fighting with us. And on a good day, as a spouse, should be like, you know what, I see you and I hear you. How can I help? Right? What do you need? On a bad day, we say a few other things with a few choice words, right? And it only amounts to something bigger. So how do you train this? One of the things that I think is missing in the world today is this world of nurturance. I mean, as you know, I do a lot of work around training, and one of the concepts we use is from the domain of psychology that helps us understand our personality. One of the sides of our personality is something called this nurturing side of the personality, right? It's the side of giving, it's the side of service. You're a very nurturing parent, what we would describe you as, Mike, right? You operate in service. You give a lot, right? Someone calls you, there's a lot of exercise to help and to support and to share, right? And I think, you know, a lot of that has to do with not just how you were raised, but obviously your genetic profile, right? This is what's missing in the world today. I think the pandemic has had a huge impact on this. People have been isolated. People have not been around community. People have not shared in team sports. I mean, think about a kid playing team sports, right? What do you learn there? Cooperation, collaboration, winning, losing, sharing. What do you learn in a community? So there's going to have to be this uptake on the social interaction and the social development with people when it comes down to operating community, because I don't think you can teach nurturance, but we can develop it and we can work it and we can grow it, right?
You don't think you can teach it? So look, if it's one of the characteristics that's needed, then you have to hire to it.
Correct.
Because if you don't have your hiring down, and you end up with a hodgepodge of people, there's going to be some percent that their emotional intelligence isn't there, and they can't be successful. I mean, they might be the ones that meet the KPIs initially, but then at the end of the day, there might be the ones also where the people are getting escalated to management, and they're really pissed off, like they damaged the brand.
Correct. And what do they say? There's stats around this, right? Which is one bad service interaction will account for 30 conversations afterwards. That person will go and tell 30 people, right? It's going to take something like 8 positive customer service interactions again with that client in order for them to let go and forget that one bad interaction that they had. So, you know, the odds, and yes, to that, you have to hire for that. This is where tools like, you know, personality assessments and profiling come in. right? But let me retract the statement. I said you can't teach it. No, you can absolutely teach it. It's a learned behavior, but it's going to require the role modeling and the mentorship from the managers and the leaders to do this, right?
Hmm.
And if they're gassed out and they're stressed and they've been operating in the system, it's a failed exercise of trying to teach, right? Truthfully, Mike, I think customer service should be taught at home. Like it's a fundamental core behavior and value that we should be instilling in our children. How to be kind, how to be helpful, right?
Yeah.
So later on in life, what happens is they get into jobs and maybe they're the manager. And the manager now takes the approach of let me be helpful because it's internal customer service. I did this huge engagement with the White House back in the day for customer service training for internal staff. Okay, finance department, marketing department, 250 people came through this, right? And by the way, what do we teach? We taught personality, communication skills, de-escalation tools, emotional intelligence, because it was that type of customer service. And the exercise was for the culture there to operate with more civility. So when I call you and I'm like, hey, I'm from Department A and you're from Department B, can you help me? Or hey, I'm waiting for a report. There was this motivation to be like, all right, let me see what I could do to get this and help you so you could succeed in your role, right? And it was a very successful engagement, right? We still talk about it today. But there's the other side of customer service, which is the internal relationships. I think if we want our external customer service, if we want our frontline staff demonstrating really amazing service externally, it's how we role model that behavior internally with each other that becomes the most important.
Yeah, so interesting. So I'll give you, this happened to me last week, and I consider myself a technologist. I've had a couple clients that have been in the, well, we have one client that is in the uh, corporate espionage, anti-espionage space. What is it called? When they break into your companies and they hold them hostages. There's a whole category. What is it called?
Cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity. So, yeah. So I know about this because in order to help him on LinkedIn and be able to communicate his value proposition, I learned a lot about this stuff. And I share with you, Greg, last week, I got a call on my phone and they had a significant amount of data and they called and they said that they were the department of whatever with the government, and that through Amazon, my credit had been breached. And then they actually knew like how many bank accounts I had. So then I was like, So then he's like, I'm going to give you my badge number. And this is what he says. This is what the lesson of this is, that he knew my objection so well that he literally said, and here's the one thing I want you to do: write down my badge number, and you do not give your social security number to me, any banking information to me, or any credit card information to me. That's not what happened on this call. So because he's trying to penetrate me and get all that stuff, he basically in the very beginning de-escalated all of it. And then I was like, and he had an accent, which is fine. And so I said, you know what? Let me speak to your supervisor.
Right.
And the supervisor came on with the same accent. I hung up the phone. I'm like, son of a gun. I almost got taken. And that's how creative they are. And they look that they're in it, that they're trained thieves.
Yeah,
So
correct.
they understand psychology of the consumer. They practice it over and over. These are con artists.
Correct.
And so if you could,
They con artists are the nicest people.
right, because he was building a relationship. He took away all the things that normally would be anxiety. He took them all away. He genuinely cared. It's like, this could go really wrong for you if they said they rented a car from Alamo. It was in San Antonio, and the car got pulled over filled with drugs. Like, I'm trying to be the one right now that's not going to get your bank account, your normal bank account shut down because this event happened.
Well, yeah. But to that point, broke down all barriers and created trust with you very quickly, treated you with significance. You're like, okay. And when I say significance, you're seen. Back to customer service, the most important thing we can do is see the person, see the human being, right?
Yeah.
Back to Brent, the conversation, like I would watch people roll up yelling, and I would watch them say things like, don't worry, I will help you. Right? I understand. I get it. I would also be, but, and people, I'll give you another example. I just flew back. I won't mention which airline, but you have to wear masks on the plane. So no masks in the airport before, but you get on the plane, you got to put a mask, right? Anyway, the flight attendant got on and she said this. She said, look, I know. I hate them. I don't want to wear them. And I'm the person that has to tell you to wear them. And I really wish I didn't have to do that. But can you help me out and not give me a hard time? Because I'm just doing what I do. And if you could do that for me, I'm going to be able to do so much more and just be better to serve and help and, look after you on the flight. And it was that kind of, right, significance and trust and connection, right? So that's it. My hat goes off to a lot of people in frontline service roles because the majority of them get verbally beat up all day. And the ones that are able to succeed in those roles are able to go, I see what's happening right now. This person's on fire right now, right? They don't mean to be spurting all this out. Let me just help extinguish that a little bit. And we get it through. What we should do for customer service departments is we should have official debriefing and like therapy and coaching sessions for them each week. Come in, tell me about your horror stories, who yelled at you, and just let them what we call emotionally express and dump and get it all out.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I haven't been in that role, but I could see how that would be amazing.
Right.
There's another stat that's kind of this interesting stat, kind of related to what you said about that woman in that role. It's in the hotel industry, and I can't remember if it was a Hilton or one of the big companies wrote up about this. It was a scientific study they did, and obviously we're trying to save the planet. And so if everyone takes the towels one time, uses them, and we got to keep washing these things, it's bad for the environment. Period. So, like a decade ago, whenever they first started asking the consumer, they made a sign with, can you please put the towel on the hook if you want to use it again? Anything that's on the floor will wash, but we're trying to save the planet. And they got something like, I don't know, let's just call it mid-teens compliance. And
Okay.
then somebody decided that they're going to change the message. And this is going back to what you mentioned about the airlines system. They flipped it and they said, we're so grateful for so many of our amazing hotel guests that have taken the first step, and it's a change to recycle the towels. And if you wouldn't mind and be part of this amazing group of customers that are helping change the planet, you can hang your towel and we'll leave it alone. You can use it again the next day, or of course, if it's on the floor, we'll change it. And because they made this image of other people already doing it, that they could be included in this group, it went up to like 30 or 40%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that part of, this part, like we're talking about from the customer service standpoint, is huge. From, okay, that initial interaction
Mm-hmm.
is everything.
Right. Right. What were some of the early customer service things that you were taught? Do you remember some of those early day lessons they would teach you?
Customers, yeah, I was a stockbroker.
Right.
So we're dealing with people's money, and you want to hear people upset, the stock goes down or something, they're really upset. Customers always right.
Customers always right, right?
Customers
And
always
I used to teach us early days. I'd say at the end of the day, there might be a lot of pressure on you, but what if we made it that, make the customer feel that they're right?
right.
Right?
That's better.
What if we just reframed it a little bit where we didn't say the customer, because some people would be like, the customer's not right. And but what if we just try to make them feel right on their position, right on their frustration, right on all of this? Yeah. Back to all of this, I think customer service, As I said earlier, should be something that's taught at homes. But as companies now, I just saw a comment that said, when customers trust your business, they'll find you credible and they'll want to do business with you. From one of the comments, right? I think Lynn actually just posted that, and you're 1,000% right, Lynn. The challenge is when you have that one bad customer interaction. We know the business now needs to demonstrate so many more positive interactions after that for that customer or that client to forget that one. I'm doing an engagement now with a client where supply chain is really difficult, right? So what you're finding in a lot of sales types of positions, particularly like industrial and stuff, is salespeople having to call up their clients and say, by the way, I got to change prices on you. I got to charge you more. By the way, I can't get you the dates that we said we were going to get you. We're going to be delayed in shipping them to you. By the way, we've had to change some of the ingredients. We've had to change a vendor, or we've had to change a supplier, right? By the way, transportation's gone up. Like, it's just these conversations every single day. And it's beyond sales now. It's how do we retain our clients, right? Because the environment is creating such shitty customer experiences. Not the business, right? But the environment.
Ingredients. Yeah.
So, well, yeah, relationship will get you so far, right? But then what you do to maintain that individual is a completely different type of customer service exercise. Maybe we'll talk about next time.
Yeah. But I imagine it's got to start the same way, where you have to build, I feel and see you kind of a conversation before you drop the news. You can't just call up and say, hey, we're going to be, 2 months late and it's going to be 25% more. They might pay for that shipment, but that's the last shipment. But if you get into a conversation, emotional intelligence and related about what's happening with the industry and the shipping, inflation and this and that and pricing, and then you kind of segue in that we're doing our best. We're eating some of the margin, the most we can. We need to stay in business so you can stay in business and come at it that way.
Correct.
You might get some people a little less upset and angry.
Yeah, someone just put empathy. They're talking empathy in the comments, and if you're genuinely empathetic, then people will feel that. If we're turning the empathy on in order to use it as a technique, that's where people will read through it. I think we need to lean into the world of humanity again, right? I think here's the other side of customer service, which we didn't talk about. The most important person to also get involved in customer service is you, the customer, right? Like, I understand your bags are missing. I understand this is delayed. I understand this is a problem. I understand. But how you now speak to the person, how you communicate, right? How you also help things move along. Because sometimes what we got to recognize is that person on the other end has just gotten off, right? A call where they were just attacked. That how we now show up in their life might be their motivation to go, you know what? Let me actually help and support and give.
Wow, yeah, that's what an interesting perspective. So if you're calling at 2 p.m. Eastern,
Correct.
and that person started working at 9, they've had 5 hours of getting hammered. So you call up, right? Why don't you just say, look, it's 2 p.m. Eastern. I bet you started at 9 a.m. and you had a bunch of people yelling at you all morning. Maybe we can start out with a different, relationship.
Correct. I always try to sort of treat customer service people a little extra nice, just because I know I've been in their world too many times and I've seen the other side of things, right? And that's it. The greatest way to teach, to influence, to impact, to get people to change is to role model and to act and to communicate and to behave in the way that you want to be treated as well, right? So,
yeah. All right. It's what does your hat say?
Making humans better humans.
Making humans better humans. I just love that that you're
That's
tagging.
the mission, Mike. I was on the plane the other day and I was wearing the hands. Someone walked by me and she says, "That's going to be a lot of work." And I said, "Well, thanks." Like what your hat says. I said, "It's a mission. It's a cause. It's a calling." Right?
Yes, exactly. It's a lot of work and it's very important. The world needs it more than ever. One of my great mentors is one of a senior Kabbalist, not an associate with the Kabbalah Center, but he's got his PhD in Kabbalah. And his famous statement is, the world is filled with outrageous pain, and the only solution is outrageous love.
I like that. I really
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
That's a
because you
good
can't
quote.
fight. Yeah, you can't fight darkness with darkness.
No.
It's been happening for thousands of years, war after war after war. At the end of the day, it's different. Most of the time, it's just different belief systems.
Right. Correct.
Believe this whole country believes in this way of life and this God, and this one believes in this way of life and this God, and my way is right, yours is right. Let's go to war and kill 1 million people. It doesn't make any sense.
No customer service.
Right. No understanding of the other person's point of view.
Correct. Correct.
All
Correct.
right. Greg, amazing. It's a pleasure. We're a couple, 2, 3 in to, right? We're a couple, 2,
Yeah,
3
this is 3.
Talking Human. We're just getting started. We're just getting into our role. We encourage everyone to send Greg or I, you're on our LinkedIn, you can see us, send us some questions for us to take. One of the things we'll be doing in probably a couple, 2, 3 weeks out is you send us questions. And if you're inspired and you want to come on for 5 or 10 minutes and share something, that's going to be great. It's a great opportunity for us to, include people that have a lot of experience and an interesting point of view. Talking Human is the topic, so we can go everywhere.
Correct. Correct. So on that note, we will see everyone next week. Thank you for joining today. And keep in touch. Over and out.